Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is the second in my videos doing a tutorial of how to build an application with Foal or FoalTS, and the TS stands for TypeScript because this is a very TypeScript-centric framework. Um, and basically today we're going to talk about building entities. So if you're familiar with like a model view controller framework, this is the model part. This is where you're basically designing what are your different types of things you're keeping track of data for. So imagine that, you might have a bunch of Excel spreadsheets. You might have one Excel spreadsheet for events, one Excel spreadsheet to keep track of people, whatnot, and a database basically collects these different spreadsheets and keeps track of any relationships between the spreadsheets. So instead of us kind of spinning up like an SQL or Mongo database and defining these things, we're going to do that through what's called TypeORM. And basically, when you first set up your full project, basically, if you go to your source folder, there's this folder called app, and in there you have entities, and that's where you'll have that. By default, it comes with a user entity. So each entity, think of it as like one Excel spreadsheet. This is probably the simplest way to think about it. So you basically, I'm telling it is, okay, how many columns are there going to be, and for the information I'm keeping track of. So here, by default, it comes with this entity. So here's and the way it works is that it's defined as a class. Everything in Foal is for the most part defined as a class. So here's a class called export class user, and it's decorated with entities. So basically, these are referred to as decorators in TypeScript. They're always preceded by an @ symbol. And what they do is that you can attach a decorator to like a function or a class or anything, and what it does, it just kind of tells the compiler or tells whatever script runs that, hey, do something special with this. In this case, it's saying, hey, this class that's right after this entity decorator is a entity. So when I run the build script, it's going to build it as an entity. And there's a bunch of other decorators. These are from TypeORM. So if you want to learn more about sort of which decorators to use for building out your entities, there's a little bit of it in the full documentation, but it's mainly TypeORM, so you want to read the TypeORM documentation. Okay, so that's what this is. Now here are all my different columns. Okay, so for example, in databases there's a concept called primary key. This is sort of the one thing in every record that's unique. So it's usually some sort of ID number, and you just kind of serialize it. But the idea is that every record has a unique ID. So that's what this decorator does. It says, hey, this is the primary key, and it's generated. So it's going to basically, every time I make a new record, just kind of add 1 to the number and generate a new ID. Now right now there's no other columns. Now in this default, it actually has a couple of different columns commented out. So I'm just going to actually include these because I do want email in my user. So I'll comment that out or uncomment that out. And what this is saying is that, hey, this is going to be another column in my sheet. So that's what this decorator means. And in the parentheses, I can put different options. In this case, I'm saying, hey, this should be unique. Everyone should have their own individual email. No one should have the same email address. So if the email address already exists, it'll just kind of bounce it. Okay, and the emails will be taken as a string. Okay, so basically we have the email, and then of course we're going to want a password. So let's uncomment the password. Password. We'll come back to this. Well, that looks like that's just encrypting the password, so we'll keep that as well. Cool. So that's like the default one that comes right out of the bucket. And then I also want to comment this out, or uncomment this out, because basically what happens is that anything you use in TypeORM, you got to import. So since we always got to import entity because you're creating an entity. Column, any decorator you use has got to be imported in. So primary generated column, entity, and again, we're taking this in from TypeORM because it's technically the library we're using to set this up. Okay, now I have a couple other entities I want to create for this particular project. I want to create an actors. So let's see here. So the command, actually this is the server still running, so I want to create a new tab. Okay, what I want to do is FOAL generate entity, and then I want to generate an app for actors. So this is going to represent, so again, this is like community organizing app for like political organizing, activist organizing, and what I want there to be is that you keep track of people, but not in separate tables of like media, whatnot. I want every individual to be able to serve multiple roles. So they're going to be referred to as actors. So Foal generate entity actors. And then whether it's like an immediate appearance, a live event, any kind of thing is going to be an event. So we need to be able to track events. So the idea is you'll be able to keep track of people who serve different roles, whether they're volunteers, donors, media, etc. in the actors model. But those models can then be associated with different events, whether they be a media appearance, a live event, a banquet, whatever. So Foal generate, or I could just do this. I could just hit up, boop, and then just change this to events. Okay, and as you see, it generated these two files, actors entity and events entity. And see, it already has kind of all the basic stuff kind of brought in. Cool. Now here's the thing. I want to create certain relationships because I'm going to be using a relationship database. You could use Mongo with TypeORM. That requires some extra steps. But I'm going to, so basically what I need to do is import. Okay, so let's go services. Well, no, not services. Entities. Actors entity. So I need to import. Okay, so basically what I want to do is I want to import. So what I did is I imported, because I'm going to be creating relationships between all of them. So basically all of them, any other model you're going to have a relationship with, you need to import. So the actors is going to have relationships with users and events, so I have to import users and events. Events is going to have a relationship with user and actors, so I imported user and actors. User is going to have a relationship with actors and events, so I imported actors and events. Now, I'm going to be using, so in actors, first to start off with the actors. Okay. Now we should be having a many-to-one relationship to actors. Okay. And a many-to-many relationship with events. So I should have to import those. Okay, so basically what I did is I created a many-to-many relationship. So let's start off with the actors. So again, I had to import many-to-many. So that way I have access to the decorator. Okay, and actually I think I need to import join table as well. So let me just confirm that. Documentation is so good. Okay, yep, join table, I need to import that as well. Basically assume if it's a decorator, you need to import it. Join table. Okay. So basically what happens here is I have the decorator many-to-many, which means this field that I'm about to define has a many-to-many relationship. Okay, and basically what I'm doing is I'm connecting this actors model to the events, and I put it in uppercase and lowercase, and then this kind of just names sort of the pseudo field that it's going to kind of fill in, or sort of where it joins. Now, basically here at join table, basically just defines sort of which is sort of the owner of the relationship. So even though there's a many-to-many relationship on both sides, one of the two has to have this join table decorator. Okay, I chose to do it on the actor side. I'm just thinking of the actors as sort of the center of this database. Okay, and again, this is just the field in there. So basically, in the database, when I'm looking at the actors table, there's going to be an array of events that is associated with each actor. So all the events that they're associated with will be in this events array. Okay, so let me save that. Actually, just one other question. Yep, okay, that's all fine. Okay, and then we go to events, same deal. Okay, I don't have to import the join column in there, but I do need to bring in many-to-many. Okay, and then I just do the same thing, except now actors is what I'm associating it with. So every event will have an array of actors who are associated with the event. Okay, cool. But the thing is that I don't want every user seeing everybody's events, because I want this to be a multi-user program. So what I need to do is create a relationship between users and these that are going to say, hey, you know what? Every event or many events can have the same user, but every event can only have one user. Okay, so basically when you log in, you only see the events you created with the actors you created, multiple user accounts, so that way different people can use this application to do what they need to do. So let's see here, let's go to users. So I need to import one-to-many here. So there's one user for lots of things. So let's save. So since I want my users to have several different actors and several different events, again, we're going to import one-to-many. And then I'm going to create a one-to-many relationship with the one-to-many decorator. Which again, similar to the many-to-many decorator, I'm just saying, hey, I'm connecting it to this model. And then basically sort of the pseudo field that's going to get created in the database is going to be called actors.user. But in this particular model, so again, there's going to be several sheets that get made. There's the table that's made, the user table, but then there's also going to be like a pseudo table or extra table that gets created that is based solely on the relationship. So actors, so basically it's going to be an actors field that has the array of all the actors the user created. And then the same thing for events. There's going to be a field called events that's really just an array of all the events that the users created. Now, but that's one-to-many because there's only one user. Every one user has many actors. Every one user has many events. But in this case, for actors and events, it's many-to-one because many events have one user. Many actors have one user. So in this case here, I had to import many-to-one. And then here many-to-one, similar syntax as before. And again, user, user. So basically there's a field called user which takes in a user, okay, defined by our user model. And same thing for events. We can assign one user. So there's only one user. So basically the idea is going to be when you log in, it's going to populate the screen based on only the users that are associated with the currently logged in user. That's sort of the intention here. Okay, so we have that all marked up. Now, of course, there's going to be more fields that I want to have for events and actors, but at this point, we've kind of gotten the idea of how you create your model. So I'm going to show you what the next steps are. Okay, so the next steps are in Foal, what we're going to want to do is we want Foal to actually take a look in our apps folder and pick up on all those changes to our entity files. So to do that, we're going to type in npm run build app. So that means it's going to go through the app folder and basically run any tasks that seem to need to be done. In this case, it's just going to be changes to entity. So we run that, let it do its thing. Okay, it's doing its thing. And then eventually it's going to complete. And then after that, we need to build our migration file. So basically at this, FoalTS doesn't know what the changes are yet until I run this build. That's when it goes and actually looks in there. Then I'm going to run a separate command that's going to create a file that takes those changes that it's picked up on and creates a migration file that's going to be in this migration folder down. Where's the migration folder? I think that's in Book Services. I saw it earlier. Public source. Tree scripts. Where did the migrations folder go? Actually, I don't think it exists yet because we haven't run it for this particular app. And we have a problem. Let's take a look. Events, found 4 errors, complete this log. Let's see here. TS one-to-many types. Declaration expected. See, are my imports fine? Okay, finally got it. So just so you're aware, so that way in case you made the same mistakes, again, be careful with your casing. It's one with a capital too many, or many too many. And then the thing that was really causing me some issues is that I accidentally defined these one-to-many relationships, and then I kind of put them right here in this bracket. So I was thinking it's part of this, not two separate definitions. So once I cleaned that up, that really got that going. So just so you're aware, in case you copy and paste it the same way I did. So let me save all that. But we made the migration file. Well, we built the app. So now that I built the app, the next thing we have to do is run the migration command. So npm run migrate -- name equals events actors migrate. Just call it that. Missing script, migrate. Skip the step. I have to, first I got to build the migration file. So the npm, they searched for the changes when we did the run build app. Then we're going to build the migration file. Paste. Okay, and then, again, npm one migration, generate. That was the part that we forgot. And then here we're going to put the name of this migration, which we'll call it events actors. Okay, it's creating the migration file. And that's been generated successfully. Okay, and then we can run npm run build migrations. And we'll take a look in our migrations folder, which there should be now a migrations folder in here. Let me go find it. Migrations. And then there's that migration we created. So now it's going to look in that folder, and it's going to start creating all those migrations in the database, which right now it's the default DB SQLite 3 here, which is the database. So it's running that. Okay, and the last command is npm run migration run. And that will run the migration. And in that case, you've migrated all your entities to the database. So you just run that, make sure everything looks fine and did what you wanted to do. And then that's essentially how you build out your model. So now I'm going to go back and make the changes I need to get the models where I want them. But this is kind of shows you sort of that next step. So I will see you guys in the next video. And again, make sure to head over to alexmercedcoder.com and join my Slack networking group.